This is Roger Strogoff with Syscon TV at CloudEXPO New York, June of 2017, and we're sitting here with Steve Connor with Cloudistics. He spoke at the event, and he was talking about public cloud. I think you've heard of it, so we don't have to explain that, yeah. But, you know, how to get the benefits of it without the drawbacks. Because, as I was saying, in 2009, when we first did this event, when we called it Cloud Expo,
right,
we promised everyone that it was going to be simple. And we lied because we wanted them to come back year after year.
Right.
So now they do want the benefits for some reason without the drawbacks. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
And tell everyone out there what you talked about during your speech.
Yeah, so in the speech we talked about going through and looking at some of the benefits that you get with a public cloud, but you know, some of the drawbacks that you're going to get by going out to the public cloud. So what we've looked at as an industry is, you know, there's a couple of things that you used or did to go out to that cloud. You did it for speed, you did it for cost potentially, you did it for simplicity, and you did it for scale, right? So those are the reasons that you went out. But as we've gone out into the cloud, we've seen that over time, those things are great, but we may have lost a few things. You know, we lost control. You know, I don't have complete control over that environment when I move out there. It's, you know, I'm giving up my stuff, and it's almost like Hotel California. I've given up cost to a certain extent because once it's easy to get into those things, but it's not so easy to stay in from a cost standpoint. And then when you look at security and flexibility and things like that, those are the things that we gave up when we went to the public cloud. So now people that have been out there since 2009 for a bit of time, they're searching for, how do I get that back? But still maintain the simplicity and the speed that we saw from going to the public cloud.
This control thing is interesting because that was always the argument against wanting to do it. I don't want to give up my stuff, and then they were worried about, I won't be secure, even though a mega provider is probably going to be more secure than you. But it's an interesting thing. Now, well, let's draw an analogy. It may be good or may be bad. By now, you know I like to make these. So I'm driving a car, I have control. I'm flying in a plane, I don't. I'm like 1,000 times safer in the plane, 10,000 times safer in the plane, not even on a per mile basis, but on a per hour basis. Yep. But with public cloud, I mean, you still have control ultimately, or
not really. So the plane is a great analogy, right? So when I get in a car and I have a destination that I need to get to, I have control over that. I can stop and start when I want to. The only thing that's going to cause me trouble is traffic. When I'm in a plane, and we've all traveled in planes, I'm at the mercy of weather. They maybe cancel my flight, right, and things like that. So am I safer? Absolutely, but I give up complete control on being able to get to my destination, and that's very much like the public cloud, right? When I give up that, I've basically relinquished all of those control factors that I would have around things that I would normally be able to do, turning different levers and knobs that I would normally take on a premise. So that's a great analogy.
And you know, it occurs to me, if you had the plane seats in your car, you'd never drive.
Yeah.
And you don't have to swipe your credit card to listen to the radio.
Exactly. So I mean, if you had the ability to have those feature sets of an airplane, and not have to worry about all the things that go sideways with taking a flight, then you'd absolutely do that. Absolutely would do that.
Okay, let's keep going with the plane. Is the idea, though, with public cloud, just as the plane is much more powerful than your car, if you got to fly your own plane like some people do, for example, is there, I mean, the thing about public cloud, I think one of the advantages is the theoretically unlimited capacity.
So that theory is the key word there, right? So when we look at the cloud, and I don't know if anybody's seen recently, but there was a recent news article where Amazon ran out of capacity in the UK. I mean, literally ran out of capacity. So it was a cool article. If you hadn't seen it, go out and look. But when you look at that idea, the key thing associated with being able to add capacity is two things that Amazon has that we don't. They have basically the ability to software define their capacity, and they have the ability to do things very incrementally. So instead of having to buy these big monolithic things like an airplane, I now can actually just buy the little pieces of an airplane and put it together while I'm flying it. And that's what Amazon does. So now, today, in the world that we live in from an infrastructure standpoint, I have the ability to kind of put the plane together while I'm flying it. So we're getting more and more of that back.
Okay, so now let's land the plane and tell everyone what Cloudistics brings to the table and why we're having this conversation.
Perfect. So at Cloudistics, we've basically built that platform. So you've got the ability to have that public cloud feel on premise. So it's a combination of hardware and software, and that software is what's the key to the whole platform, and it gives you an Amazon feel. So by taking a couple approaches from Amazon, we've software-defined everything, and what we've done is interlocked all the pieces. So you don't have a software-defined network or a software-defined data center or storage. It's a software-defined platform, very much like Amazon. In there, we've also given you the ability to incrementally scale. That's our airplane, building it on the fly. We've given you the ability to do a lot of secure micro-segmentation. So that gives you the ability, like Amazon, to have multiple tenants living in one footprint. And at the same time, with all of that, we've given our customers the ability to basically scale at will. So instead of having to worry about that big piece of stuff, the airplane, I can now say I'm going to scale a computer or a piece of storage or something like that.
I think that when some people hear the word software defined, they may think of, in many ways, not only control, but like performance, overhead. What are the other?
So when you hear software defined, you generally will think of there's two things. It feels like you're giving up control to a certain extent, and it may give up overhead. But what we've done with our platform is basically said, we need to take what's really good in the industry. There's a lot of great things in open source, right? And we're probably 70% open source, and we've added a lot of IP around networking, around storage administration, and around virtualization administration that allows people to basically relinquish the administration of servers and hardware and focus on the administration of platforms, applications, and things like that. So that's that scary piece right there. When you look at, from a control standpoint, you still have complete control over everything. You determine when you scale it, you determine when you move things around, you determine how you partition it. So unlike an Amazon or an Azure where I've just relinquished everything, I've brought all that back in. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, and the thing is that, and during your presentation, you were so difficult to be succinct with complex stuff. So you had like the 4 horsemen that you actually just mentioned, and the 5 this and that. And so I want everyone to make sure they get your report. If they attended the show, they're going to. And when they watch this, we'll provide a link to it, I think, because they need to see that. But the question is, once you get beyond that, what kind of customers are you dealing with? Are these like really big, massive customers, all of them, or are they doing, and then the other way to look at it is pilot projects and cool things, or how mainstream are you getting?
That's a great question. So we've started with, I would say, mid-level customers. So a lot of people that are willing to cut into not bleeding edge, but cutting edge, right? Yeah. But as we've gotten in and shown the value of the platform, we're actually working with some pretty major banks. We're working with some major media and entertainment footprints. One is an NBA team. So what we're finding there is that it fits the masses. When we look at verticals that make a lot of sense, it's a great play for service providers because they need that multi-tenancy capability. It's a good play in the government because of the same reason. When you look at application footprints that you're asking about, we see a lot of things around data. Because the platform is so fast, big data is a footprint for us. If you're looking at security data like Splunk, that's a big footprint for us. And it's what a lot of the hyperconverged guys can't do because of the way they work. So that's where we focused, and that's where we're seeing a lot of traction, and then containers.
Okay, Cloudistics, it's right there in the shirt.
Right there.
So is it .com?
.com, Cloudistics.com.
Cloudistics.com. You can find a lot of stuff there, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Because this is not the only talk that he gives. And he knows a lot about AI, but we've run out of time.
Perfect.
But I asked a simple question this morning at something, about getting smarter, and he actually knows. So there's a lot of stuff that you can find out by going there. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Go there. Thanks for watching. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.